We'll give it a few more minutes for more people to join. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Please note that this meeting is recorded and we will start in just about 30 seconds. Thank you. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to the Sully District Community Conversation on Active Transportation as part of the ActiveFairfax Transportation Plan. My name is Nicole Winans. I'm the program manager and working for the Fairfax County Department of Transportation in active transportation planning. I'm joined here by several staff from the Department of Transportation, starting with Tom Bichotny, who is the director of the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, Chris Wells, who is the program manager for the Active Transportation Program, Lindsay Marford, who is an active transportation planner with FCDOT, helping today with some of the logistics. And I would like to give a special welcome to Supervisor Kathy Smith. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, that would be great. I just want to thank you for putting this meeting together for the community. Being active is so important to us, and it's really important to hear from the community how we can help them reach their goals to be active. So I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. All right. Let's dive right in. All right, let's start with the meeting logistics. So first, we're going to let you know how to participate in this meeting. This is not what we imagined we were doing just a year ago. We were hoping to have a real conversation with the community, but of course, unfortunately, we need to do this in the virtual space. So just so everyone knows how they will be able to participate, we will go over that in a second. Then we're going to take a step back and look at some of the basics of, what is active transportation, what are active transportation facilities, and have a discussion about each type of active transportation: walking, biking, hiking, and equestrian use, and mountain biking separately, so we can hear from everyone about those specific issues. And then we will look into the future, like what is this project about, and how will it help shape the active transportation future of Fairfax County. And we look at some next steps of where this project is heading, And in the end, we'll have more time for discussion and Q&A. So first, meeting logistics. The meeting is being recorded, so the recording will be available in a few days at our project website at fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/bike-walk/ActiveFairfax. If you would like to ask a question, you can use the WebEx Q&A feature in the bottom right. Just open the Q&A window and you can type in your question at any time. If you would like to answer a question that we are asking you, please use the WebEx chat feature, which will pop up when we open the floor for discussion. And the chat feature will allow you to see each other's comments, while the question and answer feature, you will not see the questions that are being asked until they're being marked as answered verbally, and then they will pop up. Just keep that in mind. So if you would like to answer a question verbally or ask a question verbally, please raise your hand, and you can do that by clicking on the hand symbol on the bottom right of your screen. If you are calling in today, please press *3 to raise your hand, and you can press *3 again to take down your hand. So after we have called on you and you have been able to speak, please make sure you take down your hand so we know that you don't have another question you would like to ask. So let's get started with what is active transportation? So the definition that we chose for this project, which is in line with the national thought of what active transportation is, it's really including all forms of non-motorized self-propelled travel, and that can be both for recreational purposes or for transportation purposes. That includes walking, riding a bike or horse, hiking, running, and rolling, for example, in a wheelchair, scooter, or stroller. And there is a notable exception to the non-motorized and self-propelled part of the definition. It does include electric micromobility vehicles, it's a mouthful, as well, such as electric scooters, electric bikes, and electric skateboards. Now we take a look at transportation, the active transportation facilities. And first we're going to look at the pedestrian facilities, then the bicycle facilities, and then the hiking, mountain biking, and equestrian facilities. All right, let's get started with the pedestrian facilities. So the most basic facility you are very familiar with are sidewalks. In urban areas, the sidewalks are a little bit wider. They encourage social strolling and lingering, and there are often street trees and benches and lighting. Outside urban centers, what you often see is a narrower concrete sidewalk, usually 5 feet wide. You can see this one in the picture. This one is from Fairfax County. And the width of that sidewalk is determined by our guidelines to accommodate people with mobility issues. So for example, a wheelchair user should be able to turn around or pass another person. What is a crosswalk? So crosswalks are slightly more complicated. So there are different crosswalks in Fairfax County that you should be aware of. So the graphic on the left here shows one of the most common crosswalks that you see mostly at signalized intersections. So this is the parallel white line that people can use to cross. Then below here, number 2 is what is called a high visibility crosswalk. It has the bold stripes, also called a zebra crosswalk sometimes. And those are often found near metro stations or near schools where a lot of pedestrians are expected and more vulnerable road users. But then there's this third here on the right, and it's a legal crosswalk, but it's not actually marked. So it's called an unmarked crosswalk, but legally it's the same crosswalk as all the other ones. Many people don't know that, so we often get requests for crosswalks, for striped crosswalks. But legally, it is really the same thing, but they're not as visible. The one on the right here is what is called a mid-block crosswalk. So it's not at an intersection, so often it's high visibility to alert drivers that pedestrians should be expected here, and there is always some pedestrian signage as well. We also have enhanced crosswalks in Fairfax County. On the left here, there's a something called the Pedestrian Refuge Island that allows pedestrians that are crossing to cross one direction at a time and have a safe place to wait in the middle. The one on the right is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is the pedestrian signage you saw earlier, but there is a light attached to it that can be activated by a push button, and it starts blinking, and that alerts drivers that pedestrians are either trying to cross or already crossing. And particularly at night, it's helpful because sometimes it's very hard to see pedestrians in darker parts of Fairfax County. However, it's not a signalized crosswalk in the sense that it stops the cars. The pedestrian still has to wait until it's safe to cross, and then they can cross. Here are the signalized crosswalks. The one on the left is the most common one all over Fairfax County. You often have to activate with a push button, and then you get the walk signal, and then you have a protected phase where you can cross safely. The only conflict that's really to be expected in most cases is a right-turning vehicle that has to yield to pedestrians. On the right is something that's new to Fairfax County. It has been around for a couple of years, but I think we only have one so far, a few in planning. This is called a pedestrian hybrid beacon, and it is also a true signalized crosswalk that stops cars, but it's not at an intersection. It's only used mid-block. And then we have pedestrian bridges and tunnels, which are great separated crossing. Those are often used across either bodies of water or train tracks or really busy roads like highways. In Reston, we find a lot of these tunnels. I think there are 23 that were planned as part of it. They sometimes cross under less busy road, but it was part of the concept of Reston. But that's probably the place that had most tunnels in Fairfax County. So now we would like to hear from you about your experience being a pedestrian in Fairfax County. What is it like? Do you have any thoughts about some of the facilities we just showed you, something you would like to see more of, or any issues you would like to share? So if you can type it in the chat, or please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And as a reminder, if you're calling in, please press *3 to raise your hand.
We don't have any comments or hands raised right now. Let's say give it a little bit in case people are typing.
Feel free to also ask a question about any of the infrastructure we just presented to you if you would like to know more about them. All right, if there are no, oops, we can move on.
I do have a comment in the chat.
Oh, we do, okay. Okay.
Just received one. Many of the roads are not well separated, and on windy days like today, the roads act like a wind tunnel, making it more uncomfortable to walk.
That's a really great observation. Thank you for sharing that. Any other comments?
I think that's it for now.
All right, great. Let's move on to the bicycle facilities. So bicycle facilities can be on street or off street. So let's look at the on street facilities first. So the one you see here is actually no specific facility, it's a shared street. So a quiet neighborhood street that doesn't have a center line, low traffic volumes, and people go fairly slow, are a pretty safe facility for most cyclists to use, no matter how experienced they are or what age they're at. So it's pretty a nice facility for children or the neighbors to use to ride on. However, the one on the right here is already a slightly busier road. So in this case, it's probably more used by more experienced cyclists. And it has this double yellow, which really pushes the cars further to the outside of the street. And now it's a true lane that has to be shared by vehicles and cyclists. So in order to alert vehicles to expect cyclists in the road, we can add something like this symbol here that's called the shared lane marking, or SHARO. Bike lanes, on the other hand, separate cars from cyclists. So these are a slightly more comfortable facility on busier roads that are not quite neighborhood streets. So cyclists can either get a bike lane in one direction or both directions, depending on the available space. Most of the bike lanes in Fairfax County are retrofits, so we add them where there's enough space. If we construct these as part of a capital project, of course, we would make sure to have bike lanes in both directions. On the right here is something called a buffered bike lane, which has 2 parallel stripes. Sometimes they are just 1 foot apart, sometimes 2, 3, 4, even 8 feet apart, depending on the available space. And they provide that extra buffer between the cyclist and the moving traffic. Now looking at the off-street facilities. So the most common off-street facility for cyclists is the shared use path. And what it really is a shared bicycle and pedestrian facility. So instead of a sidewalk, there would be a wider paved facility that can safely and comfortably be shared by multiple active transportation modes. So they can be in urban settings, as here on the left. This is not in Fairfax County, but Fairfax County is planning a similar facility in McLean right now as part of their master planning process. But we do have a lot of these paved trails along major streets in Fairfax County, and also minor streets, and through parklands, which are very popular. A new facility that is off-street is a separated bikeway, which is also known as a cycle track or protected bike lane. So this one looks like a shared use path, but it has markings on it, just like a on-street bike lane, and it has a separate space for pedestrians. So this facility is often used in more urban areas where there are a lot of pedestrians expected. So in order to not have bikes and pedestrian mix, they get the separated spaces, and that can be either 2-way or 1-way, then 1 lane in each direction. So why are we looking at these different type of bicycle facilities? So for pedestrians, we have the sidewalks. That's pretty simple. But what is the right facility to use for to support bicycling in Fairfax County? So this graphic kind of sums it up nicely. Is we can stripe bike lanes on all of these roads, but many of our roads are very busy, and only a few people would actually find it comfortable to ride on there. And a lot of other people that may be interested in biking look at that and it's like, no, I don't feel comfortable being so close to traffic. I want a separation. So if we build a facility that has that separation, we're still allowing and supporting the cyclists that were there before, that were comfortable riding in the bike lanes, to do their commuting or recreational trips. But now we allow all these other people to feel comfortable riding bikes in Fairfax County. And this is another graphic that kind of shows how these different type of cyclists are, distributed across the population. So the smallest percentage is actually those highly confident cyclists that we often see out there. They have a pretty high stress tolerance and don't need that much infrastructure. And the somewhat confident cyclists are between 5 to 9% of the population. They do pretty well in bike lane, particularly in urban areas, but they wouldn't necessarily share a lane with vehicles, so that they like a little bit of that separation. But the biggest part of the population, more than 50%, are what we call the interested but concerned. And that group really looks for that separation from traffic in order to feel comfortable biking in Fairfax County. So when we look at facilities, we look at the road and determine how comfortable is this road, and what is appropriate facility. And if it's a pretty busy road, the appropriate facility is likely an off-street facility that serves the greatest amount of people, what we call the all ages and abilities design. So now you have the chance again to share your thoughts on riding a bike, scooter, or another small vehicle in Fairfax County. What works for you, what doesn't, what would you like to see? Are you interested in any of the facilities we just discussed? If you have any questions, please feel free to speak up or ask your question in the chat. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. If you're calling in, please press *3 to raise your hand.
We have a couple of comments. Diane says, I have to leave at 7:30, sorry, but I am interested in smart traffic signals that can detect pedestrians, bikes, and cars. Is there a way to get these lights installed in Fairfax County?
That's a really great question to ask. So we do have loop detection for cycling, which is, I don't think what you're asking about. There's more high-tech things that are actually on the signal. And that is definitely something that if new signals are installed, maybe something that can be considered if it makes sense from the overall traffic operations. I'm not an engineer, so Chris or Tom, would you like to respond to the technical aspect of that?
Sure. Let me add one thing. So as Nicole said, hopefully you guys can hear me. There are loop detectors for bicycles, and that's actually been a technology that's been around for a while, but that's an imperfect technology because bikes are made of different metal percentages and stuff like that. The latest technology is something that we've used on some of our rapid flash beacons, and that's a passive infrared technology. And so that's in my line of work, that's sort of the holy grail of pedestrian detection, because when we have pedestrian signals, we don't want them to be on when someone pushes a button and then crosses ahead of the signal or pushes the wrong button and is trying to go the other way. And so this passive infrared detection, which is brand new, the city of Fairfax had a pilot of one, and we now have our first one as well. It uses the same type of thermal imaging that like our police helicopters use to search at night, detecting body heat. That was developed actually in the maritime industry. So we have that at our crosswalk on Prosperity Avenue in the Cross County Trail, and it's phenomenal if you watch it. It picks up cyclists approaching at speed and turns on the rapid flash beacons so the cyclists don't have to slow down. It picks up pedestrians of different speeds. So I've seen it pick up an able-bodied pedestrian at an appropriate distance, and then also a slower moving elderly couple at a different distance. So that technology is starting to become available and reliable, but it has only recently become so. So we actually today had a high-tech event in the county where we're soliciting high-tech companies to under the Smart Cities initiative to pitch us technology solutions for safety. And while that wasn't focused on necessarily activating the signal, a lot of their technology is focused on identifying pedestrians and cyclists and cars with computerized technology that identifies the speed and the direction and ultimately the destination. So as a pedestrian maybe cuts into the road ahead of a crosswalk by a few feet or something, there is technology out there now that can actually map that and analyze that. And so in the future, given the technology I saw today and part of these guys' technology pitches, that type of technology can be used to trigger a traffic signal, extend the walking time of a traffic signal if it's a wheelchair user or an elderly user. So it's a complicated answer. Sorry, I'm giving you a long answer, I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, there is some reliable technology out there now for some applications. That the passive infrared probably doesn't work well at a traditional traffic signal, but there's technology on the horizon that would actually be able to up that a notch.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any further questions?
I do have one more comment from Evan. I've noticed that many of the HOA trails are way less maintained than the county trails, like ones in parks.
That's a great observation. So with HOA trails, you mean trails that are going along the major road? So some of our public facilities actually are on HOA land, and sometimes there's actually an agreement with the county to have those maintained. Or are you referring to the trails that are kind of leading into the community? Because those would be completely privately maintained, and the HOA would be responsible for the maintenance.
I'll let you know if we get a response to that one.
Yeah, and for the participants, again, this is intended to be an interactive meeting, so feel free to not type into the Q&A, and feel free to just raise your hand and you can talk with us, because back and forth questions can be done easier that way sometime. But maintenance is a challenging subject. It's challenging for everybody. There are basically three types of owners of trails and sidewalks in the county, and that would be the county itself, that would be the Virginia Department of Transportation, and then that would be private entities such as HOAs or developments. And unfortunately, maintenance is underfunded. It's chronically an underfunding problem throughout America and here. So we're aware of that. The Board of Supervisors has commissioned reports and has been able to increase the funding for our county maintenance, and likewise VDOT has been able to increase their maintenance, but it honestly is not at the level that the roads are paved, for instance. So the challenging thing with the private property is that, you know, for a good, whatever good reason there was at the time, that a development was made, that it is remained in private property. In the case of Reston Town Center or Mosaic, for instance, they're probably going to provide better maintenance than the county or the state could provide. But when it comes to an HOA, of course, that's often has turned into a financial burden that they're unable to support. So there have been cases where we've actually taken over not only trails but also stormwater management facilities from HOA. So what all of us give as our best answer is, though, that if there's a safety problem, that we, given our limited resources, we do prioritize safety problems. So there is a website that you can look on the county for walkway maintenance, and I bet Lindsay could put that in the chat while we're talking tonight.
I have it up. Yes.
There you go. I thought so.
I would like to remind people real quick to also send your chat messages to everybody if possible, instead of just to the host.
And so you can look on that walkway maintenance layer and actually see if it is the county or VDOT or private and unknown. And so if it is the county or VDOT, then you can forward that maintenance request to us or to VDOT. And then if it's private and you need help, Supervisor Smith's office or our Department of Transportation, Active Transportation team can work with our county maintenance people and the HOAs and see what can be done. But again, the priority is often safety issues rather than just routine maintenance.
We did get a follow-up from Evan. The The comment is, I know the trails along Union Mill Road in Centerville are bumpy and not maintained. I think they're maintained by the HOA. Is there a way to acquire trail right of way so they could be county owned and maintained? And I have sent the link to the walkway maintenance map to all of the attendees.
Sure,
Chris,
thank
would
you.
you like to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lindsay. Yes, I guess is the simple answer, but the issue typically for us and for VDOT is, you know, we need to bring it up to a certain standard. So I'm familiar with the Union Mill Trail because there was actually an effort a few years ago to improve that, but then to improve it was going to require tree loss, and so then the community was not interested in improving it if it required tree loss. So your question is actually unique and one I haven't necessarily directly encountered in my career. But if there was an interest in an HOA turning over their trail to the county for maintenance, that's again something that has happened previously with stormwater facilities and trails. So that would be something that the county could consider. The county, of course, would bear the cost in that, but the preference would be, and what we actually have done with in working with the Reston Association, is to bring it up to a certain standard that then is maintainable by the county.
And Chris, this is Tom. If I might just add to that, it also depends on the circumstances of that particular development, what proffers may be involved. And so we would have to look at that on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Tom and Chris. Do you have any further questions or comments?
We did get one comment through the Q&A that says we are muted by the host and cannot unmute ourselves. So we, I think, need to remind people that you can press *3 on the phone and that will raise your hand so that we can unmute.
And again,
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
there's a raise hand button, but it's really teeny in WebEx. So at the lower corner above on my screen, above the words participant in chat, there's like a megaphone and a little hand symbol, and that little almost doesn't even look like a hand, but the one to the left of the megaphone is a hand symbol. And if you click on that, then that will indicate to Lindsay that you'd like to speak.
Oh, we also have a comment in the chat that says, I can't seem to direct the chat to everyone, only the host, presenters, and panelists. So that would explain why comments are coming straight to me. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know if that's a setting that I can change right now.
It's all a learning experience for us. But we can read all the questions that are coming in so everyone can hear.
Yeah, for sure. Just be aware that we will definitely be reading the questions that come in.
So are there any further questions or comments on biking? All right, then let's move on to the next topic, which is hiking, mountain biking, and equestrian facilities. And most of these facilities are natural surface trails. So in the images, you can see that those look a bit more narrow. Often they have, some sort of mulch surface, or it's just a crushed stone surface. And those are very popular in Fairfax County. We have a pretty big constituency for hiking trails. It's just a different way of enjoying nature. There's also the Cross County Trail, which is in great parts just an unpaved natural surface, and it's one of the gems in Fairfax County, as are many other hiking trails. So there are many of these assets. However, we have already found out as part of this public engagement process that there's a lot of appetite for more of these, and that neighborhoods seek to be connected to these trails. So even though there is a nice linear trail, it may pass by a neighborhood, and it may not be easy to get to. And we also have a good amount of designated equestrian trails or trails that are frequently used by equestrians. And that comes sometimes with different type of design guidelines. As you can see, people on a horse are pretty high up. If there's a bridge or something, we need to know that we need to design for the height of the horse and the rider. And on the right here, you see how mountain biking sometimes can be supplemented with these fun obstacles that create an extra challenge for more experienced mountain bikers. So if you have any hiking, mountain biking, or equestrian interested people in the audience, we would definitely like to give you the opportunity to focus on this topic. So again, as a reminder, you can find that little hand in the right corner, right lower corner. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. If you're on the phone, please press *3, or you can type your question or comment in the chat.
Okay, I believe I have found the option so that you can now chat to all attendees.
I'm just giving it a minute. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to type. It doesn't seem like anyone has a question or comment on hiking specifically, or mountain biking.
Nope.
Right, so let's move on to complete streets. So complete streets, in addition to having the pedestrian space and the bike space and the car space, complete streets and the things that are not necessarily the fundamental transportation facility, the hardscape. It's the street trees, the street lighting, the street furniture that enhanced infrastructure that really creates a different type of experience walking down the street. So it creates comfort, particularly during hot days when there's shade, or street lighting helps make people feel more comfortable and safe at night. And street furniture are helpful if you would like to sit down and rest, particularly if you're traveling with the elderly or very young children. And the big difference that it really can make, also from a placemaking perspective, is illustrated in the pictures below here on the slide, which is the same street. You can see that yellow truck there in both images. But on the left, you see it's a very car-centric street. There's no pedestrian infrastructure. There are bike lanes, which looks like it used to be maybe a shoulder that was just changed to a bike lane. But that's pretty much it. It's near school, so you see school children walking on the right-hand side and two on the left. And then you can see in comparison what this true multimodal street with complete streets enhancement would look like, and it makes a pretty big difference. So this is a new way for us to look at streets particularly outside of activity centers. So within activity centers, Fairfax County has planned for these enhanced streetscapes for many years. But now we're looking outside of these activity center areas, and particularly along the roads approaching activity centers, where most of the the surrounding neighborhoods that would like to have safe and comfortable access to these activity center amenities to within walking distance, and those areas definitely make sense to make it comfortable and safe, to really induce walking and biking to those high attracting areas for walking and biking trips. So let's look at the ActiveFairfax transportation plan and how it's trying to plan for the future. So Fairfax County has already some active transportation plans. Some of them are a little bit older and need updating, but there are also more than one, which has created some ambiguity between the different plans, like which one is the plan that a developer, for example, should follow, or sometimes one plan is looked at but not the other one. So having these three focus areas in the comprehensive plan has created a little bit of confusion, which we're hoping to combine into one plan to make it to streamline the active transportation planning throughout the development process, but also for our own capital projects. So on the left here, you have the Capital Trails Plan, which plans the off-street active transportation network. Has was first done in the 1970s. It was very forward-thinking, looked at these trails as a bicycle plan in a sense, but for both recreation and transportation. It was actually quite current. If you read about it now, this is exactly what we're trying to do today. Then we have the Bicycle Master Plan, which was done in 2014, which mostly looked at on-street bicycle facilities, which was best practice at the time, bike lanes, share roads, these shared street networks, and some key transportation off-street trails. And then we have multiple special area plans, which also include active transportation recommendations. They're done in a slightly different way. Instead of having a map type network, they are presented in a street cross section that you can see on the right here. So this project is actually looking at all of these cross sections and mapping them out so we can overlay the three different type of plans and create one comprehensive planning network, and then work through updating that towards a new comprehensive active transportation plan. In addition, not a comprehensive plan, but a regional effort is the Capital Trails Network, which is a regional trail network that is envisioning, this interconnectivity between all these different type of jurisdictions. The Capital Trails Coalition is actually made up of all the different type of Department of Transportation, as well as other key stakeholders such as the National Park Service. All these trails are in the local trails plans or active transportation plans, but they are designated as this higher, more regional facility. And the lines here shown in green are the existing trails, and the lines shown in orange are planned trails. And as part of this project, we want to take a look at what currently is our designated regional trail network and enhance it. As you can see, there's some gaps in the network that we would like to fill to really have a comprehensive regional network in Fairfax County as well, with really good connectivity to our neighbors. So I talked about a couple of the issues already, why this plan update is needed. So again, the most important reason is the inconsistencies between the Bike Master Plan, the County Trails Plan, and the area plans. So in some areas, you may have 3 different recommendations for the same road. So by having everything combined, and the area plans would still be separate, but at least it would have the same recommendation for that site. It will have the recommendation that follows best practices today. So some of these plans are older. 2014 seems not that long ago, but in bike planning, that's an eternity. So there's a lot of design recommendations have changed, particularly from the movement from the on-street facilities to the off-street facilities. So we will revisit the network and ensure that the facilities we're planning for are meeting our current needs and future needs. Then we don't have much of a pedestrian focus in our current active transportation plans. So that is something we would like to add and enhance in this ActiveFairfax transportation plan with its own section on, how many crosswalks should be at an intersection, what type of crosswalks are appropriate in what situation, and having some general guidelines on designing for pedestrians, sidewalk width, and some other topics. And there's also not specific guidance on active transportation safety currently in the plans to an extent that we would like to see. So we really want to make safety a focus in this plan. Of course, any infrastructure the county or developers building is enhancing safety, but it is good to have comprehensive, a systematic approach to safety that will help reduce road fatalities, particularly among active transportation users. The project is currently broken into 2 phases. It's possible that we will break it into 3 phases. That's to be determined, but we're currently in phase 1. We're nearly at the end of phase 1. So we started in July 2020, and we're wrapping up phase 1 in July this year. And what we have focused on so far was a review of the existing policies and plans, the existing conditions on the ground, as well as our demographics. So existing conditions are not just the trails that we have or the sidewalks that we have, but where's our greatest demand for active transportation, where are our greatest equity needs, health concerns, so all these different variables that play into where should we focus our efforts in the future. And the final product of phase 1 will be a vision, goals, and objective statement, which will form the baseline for phase 2, where we are looking at recommendations, both for developing the network, as well as programmatic recommendations and policy recommendations and implementation guidance. So now you have a chance again to let us know, what is your vision for active transportation in Fairfax County? Do you have any grand ideas, or what is important to you? What would you like to see this plan accomplish, or Fairfax County to work towards for active transportation? So again, please use the chat, or if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand or press *3 to raise your hand if you're on the phone.
I don't see any comments, and I don't see any hand raised.
Someone just called in, I believe, so I just want to, I don't know if that's a participant that's calling in to get better audio, but in case it's someone new, please, thank you for joining us. We're currently asking about your vision for active transportation in Fairfax County. And if you would like to share that, please press *3 to raise your hand and we can unmute you.
We do have a comment from Evan. More regional trails. Having more high quality trails like the WNOD would be extremely useful.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
Can't argue there.
Any other thoughts? All right, if not, we're going to wrap up the presentation, and then we have a couple more minutes at the end to talk a little bit more about anything you would like to share about your vision or experience, or any questions you have about the project. All right, let's look at other ways to share your opinion with us, or please help us spread the word. So we have a community survey online right now that's open until May 15th, and it's a really great way of sharing how you currently travel, what preferences you have, how you would prioritize funding among the different type of modes. For example, would you prefer funding for sidewalks, or for trails, or additional travel lanes, or more bus stops? So there are many ways in the survey to express your opinions. Or when it comes to street design, right-of-way is often limited. How would you prioritize the right-of-way? What's more important to you? Is it a wide grass buffer, or a wider facility, or a median in the road? So there's a couple interesting questions for you to share your thoughts on active transportation improvements, or transportation in general. Then we have a map on our website that you can share specific information about either barriers to active transportation, or identify destinations you would like to see. So it's an interactive map. You can zoom into your neighborhood, you can play around with different backgrounds, look at satellite images, and then drop a point exactly where you would like to point us as a project team to our attention to. You can leave a little description of what the issue is, even upload photos. If somebody else has already highlighted the issue or the destination, you can like that comment, and it will count up how many people have agreed with that observation. And then we have a second map that allows you to suggest locations for new trails and new bikeways, as well as complete street enhancements. So again, you would zoom into your area of interest, and then you can draw lines on the map. So you can either draw a line for, I would like to have a trail here, or I'm missing this connection to a shopping center or school, or there's currently nothing in the plan that would, even if it's, if you build out the entire network, there would still not be this connection because it's not in the plan. So the map shows you the current planned network. So what we're looking for is really those gaps. Where is the current planned network failing to connect to an important destination or connect a neighborhood to the regional network? So the next steps for this project is to conclude public engagement on May 15th. So we're still having open for a little bit longer. Then we will take that public feedback and start out with developing the vision and goals, reflecting key outcomes for active transportation in Fairfax County, which will then be shared with the public for review and comment at the end of May, before it will go to the Board of Supervisors for approval in June, which will conclude phase 1 this summer. So again, if you would like to share more information with us, or if you have any comments and questions, you can also email us at ActiveFairfax@fairfaxcounty.gov, or you can reach us by mail at Fairfax County Department of Transportation, attention to the Active Transportation Program at 4050 Legato Road in Fairfax. And we would like to open it up for a final Q&A or a discussion for any other comments or questions you may have. Again, if you are on the phone, please press *3 to raise your hand so we can unmute you, and you can take your hand down again by pressing *3. And you can type your questions in the chat or in the Q&A if you would like to ask us a question by typing. maybe while we are waiting for the chat, Supervisor Smith, would you like to say some parting words?
Sorry, we did get a chat message. We just got one. I would love to see more utilization of the stream valley trails. And then not exactly about hiking, but I wish to see more trails of both hard surface and soft surface trails along stream valleys as transportation corridors.
Thank you. That's a very good comment. So that's in line with many of the comments we have received so far through our online tools. There seems to be a newfound interest in particularly the natural areas of Fairfax County, as many people work from home now and explore the neighborhoods and the parkland that's close to them, and discover that sometimes they can't get to where they want to go, and are sharing those opportunities with us on the map so we can work towards making those connections in the future. And the beauty of natural surface trail is that they're also a lot cheaper to implement, sometimes even by the community in coordination with the parkland owner, instead of building a very expensive paved facility. So if there are no further questions or comments, I'd like to thank you for participating today. It's really important for us to hear from the community. It's a big county to plan for, so thank you for sharing your insights and for coming out tonight. And again, Supervisor Smith, I wanted to ask you if you would like to say some parting words.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate the outreach to the community, because it really is important for us to know how the community wants to have resources and use resources. So I'm looking forward to the continuation of this process, and thank everybody for their engagement tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith. Tom, would you like to say some parting words?
So thank you, Nicole. I just wanted to, again, thank everybody for participating this evening. We are really looking for your feedback so that we can help improve the ActiveFairfax network in Fairfax County for walking and biking and other forms of active transportation. If you enjoyed tonight's presentation, or even if you didn't, please share the links with your friends and family. We definitely would like to get your feedback on the survey, and the interactive map is a great opportunity for you to share specific concerns that you have, either missing links or problems that you're aware of, and then we'll be able to kind of pinpoint those and work to resolve those. So thanks again for your participation, and just encourage you to share the information with others so that we can get their input as well.
Thank you, Tom. That concludes the meeting for today. Thank you again for participating. Have a good night.